So today we're going to be checking out Haramain Detour Rouge. Now this one looks oddly similar to a very popular scent here as of recently, Detour Noir. Now this one here is a latent clone, and not only is it a latent clone, but it's one of the best latent clones I've smelled on the market for less than $30. This stuff here is worth a pickup 10 times over. And so I was a little bit late to getting this one, but I did see it pop up on Fragrance By, which is where I did end up picking this one up. I'll link it down below for you along with everything else I talk about here because we're going to be diving into this one. It's been a little bit of a weird one, and you'll see a lot of speculation online of it getting compared to certain other things. And so I'm going to give you my 2 cents on what I think this one smells like, because it's not exactly cut and dry like Detour Noir is. I'm just going to break down what this one is closest to. And I do also have to say, just off the top here real quick, I think it's actually really good as well. The quality still surprises me at this price point. The performance has been good. So let's just dive right into it. So interestingly enough, when I first sprayed this one on, right off the bat, initially, it reminded me a little bit of Detour Noir. You know, you kind of get some of that warm, spicy smell, that kind of latent vibe, a tiny bit. But then it immediately took a turn, and it went down a direction that had me scratching my head because I knew that I had smelled it before, this particular scent, DNA that is, but I was having a little bit of a hard time processing exactly what it was. The more I smelled it, the more it started to kind of point me in a direction of a certain couple tobacco fragrances, actually 3 of them to be exact. And you'll notice one of the notes in this is tobacco. First, I'll go over the note breakdown for you. You got lavender, bergamot, and cardamom up top. You have tobacco, black tea, and violet in the mid. Tonka bean, musk, and cedarwood in the base. That's Detour Rouge. So the tobacco, I picked up on it, so I knew it had to be something within the tobacco world that it was reminding me of. And then it started to remind me a little bit of something like a Mancera red tobacco. However, not as strong. But then I started smelling my bottle of Carolina Herrera mystery tobacco a bit more. And then I was like, this might be it. It kind of resembles mystery tobacco. And in that same conversation, also smells a little bit like Parfums de Marly Carlisle. So like I was saying, kind of 3 tobacco fragrances there. They all kind of 3 get compared to each other. That's what I started to hit on with this one. You'll also see some people compare it a little bit to Versace Eros Flame. You kind of get this warm creaminess and some aromatics to a slight extent like you do in Eros Flame. And I do see where that's coming from a little bit here. So we'll go in a little bit further here. Basically with Mystery Tobacco by Carolina Herrera, it almost kind of bridges the gap between Red Tobacco by Mancera and Parfums de Marly Carlisle. So Red Tobacco to me is going to be the most challenging of all of those. It's going to be the strongest in terms of just pure scent profile. I mean, that one hits you hard when you spray it on. Ton of tobacco, of course, but then some oud in there, and so it's a little bit more daring, and you know, it kind of actually goes in a niche direction. A lot of times Manceras can be very welcoming and very wearable, especially the fresher ones, but this one here, Red Tobacco, can be a little bit more of a challenge. Carlisle I've always really enjoyed because it kind of brought it back, but it also brought its own twist, adding in a good dose of patchouli and that sort of thing. So I really like Carlisle as well. But Mystery Tobacco has always kind of bridged the gap a little bit for me. It's kind of right there in the middle. It's a little bit more smooth, a little bit more wearable to me, and I just actually really like it. And so that's kind of where Detour Rouge fits in for me. You're getting that tobacco to a pretty heavy extent here in this one, but you're also getting some sweet tonka bean and a little bit of a warm, spicy cardamom, and then just some drier cedarwood varieties in the base. But that tonka bean is also kind of doubling to give it a little bit of that sweeter, more potentially youthful style of men's DNA, maybe perhaps like an Eros Flame. Now for me, Eros Flame is also relatively heavy on the orange in the opening. It's kind of what sets it apart from the rest of the Eros fragrances to me. So it's kind of a sweet, fruity orange and very creamy and aromatic. This one doesn't have the orange, but it does have some of that sweeter Eros backbone a little bit, Eros Flame that is. But primarily for me, it really goes more in that tobacco direction into something like a mystery tobacco, Parfum de Marly Carlisle, whatever. And in a weird way, it still has a little bit of the Detour Noir smell or the Parfums de Marly latent smell. So I guess in a roundabout way, I don't know this for sure, but if I had to take a shot at it, maybe the brand's goal was to piggyback off of the Detour Noir DNA, which this one still hits on a little bit, and then stick with the Parfum de Marly clone theme here and just kind of take on a bit of Carlisle. Maybe that's what they were doing. Maybe that's what they were angling for. I don't know for sure, but I do think it's kind of convenient, and it would make sense, you know, because it kind of is a true flanker here. It's tying back to Detour Noir a little bit, and then also looping in another popular Parfums de Marly fragrance and almost kind of combining them. So it's a really interesting twist here, and I find it to actually work out really, really well. I mean, it smells great. You know, it really does open up strong. You get a lot of notes off the top, that sweetness, but then with a little bit of a fresh aromatic balance, and then almost even a little bit of a smokiness. And then, of course, that red pipe tobacco. It's almost like a similar tobacco note and something like Parfums de Marly Herod. Not comparing this to Herod, but simply just the type of tobacco used. Again, also very similar to the other ones that I mentioned. Smells great in the air, but it smells best on skin. So if you are testing this one out for yourself, I would encourage you to get it on skin first and make sure that you're getting your full potential out of it, because this is a scent that's going to open up and develop more when you're actually giving it a proper wearing. You'll find that on skin, it smooths out a little bit and gets a little bit more refined, kind of knocks the harsh edges off, so to speak, because that tobacco and everything hits hard, especially up in the air when you first spray it. So getting it on skin and letting it dry down is a great way to see how this one lands, and it really does smooth out. It gets a little bit more creamy and sweet and smells very pleasant. I think this one brings some value because it's kind of bridging the gap here, so to speak, in terms of having something that's mass-pleasing, but also something that is interesting. That's a very challenging thing to do, especially for us here in the fragrance community, because if you're not into the fragrance community, you're just your everyday consumer, you could smell something like, I don't know, Dior Sauvage Parfum, and that would be like super original and super unique and interesting for you, right? I think most of us here that are watching the channel right now are not really at that level anymore. A lot of you guys are kind of on that next hunt for something that's going to interest you a little bit more, but you also don't want to forfeit and sacrifice mass appeal. At the end of the day, a lot of you guys are still gravitating towards fragrances to express yourself and also get some positive attention here and there. So if you kind of want a hybrid, something that's going to be a fun wearing experience for you, but also still smell good to people around you, something like this really comes in handy. Red Tobacco by Mancera is not really going to do that as well for you. It's going to be more daring for sure, more challenging. You'll get compliments here and there, I'm sure, but it's going to be more for you, the wearer himself. Carlisle creeps further in the direction of maybe getting some more compliments here and there. Mystery Tobacco, same deal. It's kind of more mass-pleasing, but this one is the most mass-pleasing out of all of them, mixing in a bunch of different elements from all over the place. So basically a gestalt here. If you're after compliments and you also want something relatively unique and a nice wearing experience, this is a nice one to check out, especially for the price. You know, these clone brands, they can kind of get beat up a little bit. A lot of it's going to be because people are anti-clone, but diving in further than that, you know, very general statement, the presentation, the bottles, and even the names of some of the fragrances can put people off. I'm not a big fan of this presentation personally. You got to make sure when you're putting the cap on that it's oriented properly, because, you know, that's the incorrect way right there, and that will not go into place. So it's just stuff like that. It's kind of annoying. However, you're just picking it up, spraying it on, and putting it down and going throughout your day. I can live with this presentation if the scent is exceptional, and in this instance, it definitely is. The scent even doesn't have to be exceptional. It just has to be good for the price. And Detour Noir and Detour Rouge, for me, has far exceeded those expectations that I had in place. I mean, these are some really solid scents. So yeah, that's kind of my take on this one. Again, it was a little bit of a different one. It was just a hybrid here, and it kind of left me confused, and I was like, you know, I don't know. I'm trying to do some research on it, and I didn't want to be swayed by other people's opinions, so I didn't want to look into it too much, but I'm still like, I got to figure this out. And I think I've kind of settled on it, at least kind of how I pick up on it. I will provide links to these down below. A lot of times these tend to go out of stock and then kind of stay out for a while. So if you've had interest in Detour Noir and you want to pick up the new Detour Rouge, I would pick them up. Look, less than 30 bucks a piece. Great deal, great savings here. And if you want kind of a red tobacco, Leighton, Carlisle, mystery tobacco twist all mixed into one, which is kind of interesting sounding, but it's kind of what it is to me, check it out. Also, I will see you over on my community tab where I'm posting deals every day, multiple times a day, all the time. If you want to save money on fragrances, which I know all of you do, make sure you go over there, get subscribed so you see those posts and those savings in your news feed. It might not be a bad idea to bookmark that page as well. That way you can just check back to it several times a day. That's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.